Do you want a story time? Because I have a story time. So this happened to me on the train home from the first time I'd ever performed in a show in London. It was the Shaftesbury Theatre, and I was still in full show glam on the train, like red lips, heavy mascara, everything. At this time I was pretty young, so my parents were with me on the train. We were right at one end of the carriage, and at the other end there were these two guys. They were absolutely sloshed. One of them was completely sleeping on, like the double seats. He was like curled up on those double seats, and he was full on sleeping. Like there was no way of waking him up. And the other one was eating a McDonald's. He noticed his friend was sleeping, so he gave his friend's McDonald's to a couple that was on the seats in front of them. So in his sleep, his friend body slammed into the overhead compartment, and that obviously woke him up. So obviously, since he was so sloshed, the first thing he could think of was the McDonald's. So he was just scouring the train for the McDonald's. He was looking under the seats. He was looking between the seats. He was just staring at people. He was just looking in the overhead cabinets. He was just scouring the whole train carriage for his McDonald's. The first stop the train got to after that, this guy, after searching the whole carriage for his McDonald's, he just left the train, still searching for his McDonald's. His friend just stood there, and because it wasn't actually their stop, he was just like, it wasn't our stop. Friend of the year award, by the way. Now this guy is starting unhinged conversations with everyone on the whole train carriage. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was things you wouldn't ask to random strangers on a train carriage. Thankfully, he didn't talk to me, but I can't really remember what happened after that. I was just so tired from the show. So yeah, that was the train ride home from the first time I had ever performed in a show in London. Do you want another story time? Because I have another story time, and it's about that time I was almost scammed in New York. So I was on a uni trip to New York. It was in my third year of uni, and on the first day there were kind of like some misunderstandings going on. So the lecturers were just like, Jess, on the second day, why don't you just take a solo day? So that is what I did. I went to the plaza, I went to the Jellycat diner, I got Chipotle, but it got to about 5 p.m. and it got a bit dark, and since I was alone in a city I'd never been to before, it was dark, and the hotel we were staying in wasn't actually on Google Maps for some reason. I knew I had to find another way of getting home. So I remembered something we saw the day before around Grand Central Station. They were like these pink carriages pulled by someone on a bike, so I took one of them home, and the driver said that he would charge me $1 a minute. I will now stick a video of the carriage ride home right here. So when we got back to the hotel, I was prepared to pay him $13 because obviously $1 a minute. But then he told me last minute he raised the price to $160 because he was now charging $10 a minute, which is even more wild because $10 for 13 minutes isn't even $160. I paid him the right amount and said that I don't even have $160, and he just said, for you, I will do it for $150. I didn't have $150 either, so he just would not go away. So I went into the hotel to ask the reception what to do. The receptionist told me that he has seen people get scammed by a lot of these like carriage drivers before. So since I paid him the right amount, he just told me to stay in the hotel until he went away. And that is what I did. I stayed in the hotel, got another Chipotle on Uber Eats, and just waited until he left. So yeah, that was the time I almost got scammed in New York. Do you want a story time? Because I have a story time, and it's about that time I thought I was going to get taken out by soap. So this happened in my second year of uni. I completely ran out of body wash, so I actually used hand soap as body wash. And it was the cheapest hand soap you can find in the store. I'm not going to say the brand, but I think you know what it is. About 20 minutes after I got out the shower, I felt something a bit weird on my neck. So I looked in the mirror, and there was the worst rash there. I had never seen a rash like it before. So I called the hospital, and they told me to go to A&E. So there I was, just in an Uber to A&E with this rash on my neck that I had never seen before. I called my family saying that I was going to be in A&E, but we agreed that, you know, I could still talk, I could still breathe. It probably wasn't the best idea, so I asked the Uber to stop right there, and I got out the Uber about, I think it was exactly halfway between my student accom and the hospital. So when I was walking back to my student accom, I remember asking everyone I knew, and I mean everyone, just what was going on. And we all agreed it was one thing, which was the soap. So the first thing I did was I just stopped using hand soap as body wash. But the main thing I did was I just stopped buying artificially scented products, and that goes for hand soap, body wash, everything. I just stopped buying like artificially scented things, and I started buying more natural products. If you want to know what I use now, I use this. It's never given me a rash and I love it. So yeah, that was the time I thought I would get taken out by soap. Do you want a story time? Because I have a story time, and it's about that time I got stuck on a boat. Yes, my hair just won't do what it's told. It hasn't for the last 3 days. Anyone who uses a hair straightener will know. So I used to live in a city that was so famous for boat rides. I mean, if you Google it, it just comes up with boat rides as like the main tourist attraction. Anyway, I used to be a walking tour guide there. I used to just take people around the city, give them little funny anecdotes, the stories. I didn't really lean into the historical aspects, but I just used to tell them funny stories, kind of like what I'm doing here now. So one time I just wasn't assigned walking tours anymore. I just wasn't given any heads up, nothing. So I just went out into the city centre and looked for other places where I could lead tours. So eventually I found this tour guide company that said they needed new tour guides. They were right by the river, so they just told me to take a boat and see what I could do. The thing is, I had never actually driven a boat before. I had watched a training video, but I had never actually just went out in the river and driven one of the boats before this. So I went out, I couldn't turn it, I couldn't go any further in the river other than halfway. I was just completely stuck. I just couldn't get back to the shore. So the person who got me out of this mess, I remember he looked like he had come straight out of a children's book. He was just sitting in a tree reading. He was wearing a shirt with a pig on it. He pulled the boat to his side of the riverbank and he just asked me what was going on. So I told him that I was seeing if I could be a tour guide, but I was trying to drive a boat with no experience. He just told me to walk across the bridge and he would ride the boat back. So that's what we did. I just walked across the bridge back to where I came from, and he just drove the boat back. In case you really want to know, I did not get the tour guide job. So yeah, that was the time I got stuck on a boat. Do you want a story time? Because I have a story time, and it's about that time my hair caught on fire. Yes, my hair still hasn't learned its lesson from last week, but it matches the story time, so... So one year when I was in high school, I had this advent calendar with candles inside. I'm not talking about one of those candles that you burn down every day until Christmas. I'm talking about an actual advent calendar with tiny scented candles inside. And I thought it was a good idea to save them all until Christmas and burn them at the same time. So on Christmas Day, I lined all my candles up on a plate, and I lit the ones at the back, and I lit the ones at the front. And then I saw flames that weren't coming from any candles, but they were still so close to me. And I looked down and I saw that my hair was on fire. Obviously, I had never been on fire before this, so I really didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Thankfully, my family helped me get it off my hair, but my hair had completely burnt off by this point. It was completely burnt and most of it had to come off. But that wasn't actually the only thing that happened. The flames completely grouped together into one giant flame. The pressure broke the plate and we had to put it all out with a fire extinguisher. But yeah, that was the time I accidentally burnt half my hair off on Christmas Day. Do you want a story time? Because I have a story time. And since one of my last vlogs was on childhood memories, I just thought, why can't this week's story time be a childhood memory too? So this is the time I wasn't allowed to swim in primary school. Does anyone actually remember those swim lessons in primary school where we all just got on a bus to the leisure centre and we just learned to swim? Yeah, I wasn't allowed on those, and I wasn't even allowed on one, so I couldn't get kicked out. The reason was that I already knew how to swim, but I still needed that 25-metre badge, so I had to take swimming lessons externally in a spa. I remember, I think this was in like year 5, basically there was this giant swimming tournament coming up, and There wasn't even a sign-up sheet. You just told the teacher and they put your name on the list, and that is exactly what I did. So this swimming tournament was actually the first time I had ever left school for a swimming lesson in my life. Like before this, when everyone else just went swimming, I just stayed in school. But this was the first time that, like everyone else, I got on that bus to the leisure centre and I just lined up outside the locker rooms with everyone else, and then I just lined up outside the swimming pool. I think it was the year above me that raced first because I remember watching them race, but as soon as I was called up to the pool, the teacher took one look at me and said, "I'm sorry, but you were not allowed to compete." And I would say what happened after that, but I honestly don't remember. But yeah, that was the time I wasn't allowed to go swimming at school.